It's been a fun career. Flying was a blast. You're supposed to land on that. Until you feel that acceleration, you have no idea what's coming. Okay, that's what it feels like. Super Hornet pilots, some of them actually were Top Gun. The weather was so bad, there were sandstorms throughout the Gulf, and we didn't have any divert airfield. I could not see a 1,000-foot long, 100,000-ton ship. The hallmark of a superior aviator is one who uses
good evening, great citizens.
Down and out.
Never surrender.
He's done it.
Famous victory. We're going to come back.
Turn to glory.
We're here with one of the most inspirational men in the US military, a man who landed a plane with a 10 out of 10. Rabbi Aaron Kleinman, Chaplain, Commander, US Navy. Good to be with you, mate.
It's good to be with you, Raf. And just for the record, it wasn't really a 10 out of 10. The German judge, East German judge, gave me a 5. So
yeah,
things happen.
Your career went from serving in a combat situation to serving as chaplaincy, and I think that's a very interesting insight to show people what the journey can be in the US military as a Jew, and the experience can be from a career perspective. Are you able to touch on a little bit of that and share kind of your story?
Sure. But there I was laying in my mother's arms. No. So I joined the Navy right out of high school. I went to the Naval Academy, and straight out of high school, so I didn't have a lot of experience before that other than a few part-time jobs. And so I've kind of grown up in the Navy. And I was always one of those people who was doing Jewish things. So plebe year at the service academies, everybody goes to Friday night services because you don't have liberty your freshman year to go out Friday night. That attendance tends to dwindle off as you get more senior and you're able to start getting out more and more. And I was kind of the guy who was always like, yeah, I'll go out, but first I'm going to go to shul. You can't say I lived a horribly Jewish life. It was always a connection, always a touch point, always a very firm point in my identity. And it was, you learn pretty quickly in the military that you're in a minority and you may be around people who've never met a Jew before in their lives, or certainly not somebody who identified as one. And even if you're not wearing a kippah or yarmulke, if there's nothing external showing that you're Jewish, if you identify, you're going to get a lot of questions. People are going to treat you as if you're the subject matter expert on all things Jewish. And it's pretty obvious quickly that to a certain extent, you're an outsider, right? There's going to be Christmas celebrations. There's going to be decorations up in the hallway that are very Christological, and it's a different experience, right? So you may be one of the group, but you do stand out a little.
Does that come in the camaraderie, or that when it comes to actually being with your unit,
so
completely turns off?
It doesn't. In a good unit or with good people, it's not going to reduce the camaraderie. However, it is something that you're aware of consciously.
Right.
You may be part of that unit, you may be part of that group of people, but there's something a little different about you. And with people of goodwill, it ends up being a positive rather than negative. And the vast majority of people in the military are people of goodwill, especially when they see that you're not going to let the differences negatively impact your ability to work with them. They become, in a certain extent, your differences becomes one of your strengths, in that you're not going to compromise on who you are and what you believe in, and therefore you may have to work a little harder to be with them and to get the job done with them, and they respect that.
Let's touch on your military experience, and are you able to tell us some of the excitement that can come with a life in the Navy, and some of the things that you've done, some of the reasons that you've got charm on your chest?
These are just my flair, right? We're required to wear a certain amount, and yeah, it's been a fun career. It really has. The great part of the military is really the people you meet, right? So I've had some tremendously great friends throughout, and been blessed to be around some of the greatest people I've ever known. And it's funny, I'm a bit older now, so I've got flight school roommates who are now 2-star admirals, 1-star admirals, and to see good people succeed is just really, and I knew they were great people then, I didn't know the leaders they would become. So watching people over the breadth of their career has been a lot of fun. Some of the personal experiences we've gotten to do is, flying was a blast, right? There's nothing quite like it. Getting to fly a jet. Now, I was a E2 pilot, so the only time I actually flew a jet was in my training command. But even that was a tremendous amount of fun. Landing on an aircraft carrier for the first time, you're circling overhead initially at about 10 or 15,000 feet, and you're looking at this thing looks about that. It's about that big. It's about that big, right?
And that's the big aircraft carriers.
In the water, you're like looking out the window. I'm supposed to land on that, and they eventually call you down. You cycle down the pattern. You go out. You come into the break. So anywhere between 250 and 400 miles an hour. You turn the airplane over, pull around, slow down, drop your gear, drop your flaps, come in, and hopefully land. It took me 3 times to successfully do that the first time. After you get the "oh wow, I'm finally at the ship for the first time" experience out, you're like, oh, this airplane still flies the way it did back on shore, and the environment's a little bit different, it's moving a little bit, but it's I can do this. And you go from this, how on earth am I going to do this, to this, wow, I just did this.
Wow.
It's a great experience. Only maybe to be rivaled by your first catapult shot, because they tell you about it, but until you feel that acceleration, you have no idea what's coming. The only thing comparable on land is like a funny car. That's about the only vehicle we have that will accelerate as fast as an aircraft.
Can you explain the shot, like what that actually means?
So, take your airplane. The aircraft carriers have 4 catapults on the Nimitz class, the older aircraft carriers. They are steam catapults. On the newest class, the Fort class, they are electromagnetic. EMAUS, electromagnetic aircraft launch systems, so they're electromagnetic catapults. Either way, the feeling is pretty much the same. So you're taxiing around the flight deck, which can be a very busy, very dynamic environment when you can have up to 30 or 40 aircraft on there, and maybe 6 or 7 or 8 of them moving around at the same time, while 20 or 30 more maybe turning, right? And helicopters, and it's it's one of the most dangerous and dynamic work environments on the planet. And the sailors that are out there on the deck, the taxi directors, the people holding the chocks and chains, the people fueling the aircraft, they're
stressful job.
Talk about bravery, right? They would probably love to be shot at for relaxation, right? but to be out there day in, day out with the props, with the rotors, with the jet engines, and you're 100 feet above the water. It's a very dynamic and dangerous environment, and for the most part, they love it and they take tremendous pride in it, and they're good at it. And so, you're only peripherally aware of that dance. What you're aware of is your one taxi director who gives you signals. They line you up. They get you onto get you aligned with the catapult, and they tell you to put your launch bar down. Launch bar is attached to the airplane, and the shuttle will come up and engage your launch bar. So kind of like that. Actually, more like this. There we go. Kind of like that, right? When everybody's ready, they do what's called, they put you in attention. Again, slight differences for the different types of catapults, but they put you in tension. That means there is a little bit of power behind the catapult. You're now being held firmly against the catapult, and it's ready to go. You wipe out your controls. You salute the shooter, the officer handling the who's actually going to direct launch button, or sometimes push launch button, and they do it. And your first time, at least for me, what I'm sitting there wondering is, how am I going to know if it's a good shot? Because if it's not a good shot, if you get what's called a cold cat, or the launch bar spits out the shuttle or anything, you're not going to have enough, you may not have enough airspeed at the end of the runway of the ship, which is only 150 feet or so, to actually take off. So in the trainer, so the very first time you do it in the trainer, you don't know what this feels like, but you're in an ejection aircraft. My fleet aircraft did not have ejection seats. Right? So you were either going to go flying very slowly, or you're going to get wet. So you're sitting there, and in a jet, your throttle's in your left hand. So you're sitting there, you got the throttle all the way up, your engines are going as fast. So how will I know if it's a good shot? How will I know? How will I know? Oh, okay, that's what it feels like. There's instantly no doubt in your mind, right, that was a good catapult shot, and and that feeling is such a kick in the pants. It'll about stop your heart every time. And it's so cool. So fast forward, that was 1998. So fast forward 26 years, actually no, almost 27 years. Just a few months ago, I had the privilege of going aboard USS Gerald Ford, the most recently commissioned aircraft, so the newest one that's actually in the fleet.
Oh, wow.
She has emails, and I was got to go on to get some training and to lead some services, and I was coming off. I was going to ride the COD off. Now, the COD is the C2 ground carrier on board delivery. It's how we get passengers and stuff on and off
the ship. What's it called, the fly, like the wire, or the little plane?
No, the
little heli.
No, the COD. Oh, you're thinking of the MV-22. Right. That's eventually supposed to replace the COD. That's a different thing. No, this is a big fat twin-engine turboprop with a cargo hole. It's very much like the Hawkeye that I flew, except instead of having a small tube with a bunch of radar in it and a radar dome on top, it's a big cargo hold.
Right.
Okay. So this one was rigged for passengers, and the people I was flying with were a bunch of, or riding with, were a bunch of F-18 Hornet and Super Hornet pilots.
Oh, wow.
And they had just come out to do training or lead training for new Super Hornet pilots. So these were hardcore jet guys and gals.
Top Gun
and they
kind
were,
of guys.
some of them actually were Top Gun.
Oh, wow.
And they were really rock solid and, typical jet jocks, right? But now they're having to take a carrier shot as a passenger backwards.
Right.
Right. Because the seats are facing the rear. And so and I've done this a bunch of times. We're sitting there, and boom, it feels like the back of the airplane is rushing forward to meet you. It's like the closest thing I can give an analogy to is going to warp speed. From like the way Star Trek or Star Wars does it, right? It looks like the ramp of the airplanes coming up to meet you that fast. And then, you go second half, 2 seconds, and you're off and you're flying, and so you're no longer accelerating at that rate. So you go back in your seat, and they're all looking around like, woohoo, high five at each other, high five in the 50-year-old Chaplain. They just thought it was the greatest. So those guys and gals who do it all the time and are used to driving, being in the front seat, flying the airplane of a very fast tactical fighter jet, fourth generation fighter jet, they were fired up about getting the shot. So a catapult shot, it about stops your heart every time. It's one of the most exciting things I've ever done.
Do you think you could get me a media pass to have a go at it?
Alf is pretty influential. You never know.
That is true.
If Jimmy Buffett got to fly an F-14, we might be able to get you to ride in a COD.
Just a catapult shot. That's all I need.
I highly recommend. If you can ever get one, if you know somebody and you can get a catapult shot, do it. Right? Absolutely do it.
Email your congressman. So, talking about landing on aircraft carriers. I know that you have one specific experience that is unique for pilots and shows your prowess behind the throttle. So please go ahead and tell us that story.
So, sorry, I've got a couple of stories. I don't know which one exactly you're asking.
Well, then let's hear them all. Let's keep going. I mean,
so it can be a very humbling environment. It's often been said that aviation is not inherently dangerous. It is inherently unforgiving. Carrier aviation all the more so. So daylight, good weather, landing on and the airplane's working right, landing on the ship's a lot of fun. Nighttime bad weather, it's not as much fun. One of the let me step you through a normal one, then I'll step you through one or two of my Harrier ones. So a normal carrier landing, daylight, you're in what's called the Marshall stack. You stack from about 2,000 feet up to about 10,000 feet, depending on the type model series of the aircraft, and they call you down. The stack kind of collapses, lower guys land, and then everybody descends one. And eventually you just follow the person in front of you in. You come in, you brake, slow the airplane down, you come around, and you roll out with about a 3/4 mile straightaway in front of the ship. That should be about It's been many years. Memory serves about 12, I think the ideal is 12, 13 seconds on the ball before you land. And the landing signals officer will call you, say call the ball, and you'll give your side number. Your side number also tells them what airplane you are. They know that. They can see you. They know who they're talking to. But so it would be...
Got your eyes and cross your T's.
Right. And so the response would be 602 Hawkeye ball. So I'm telling them what kind of airplane I am. Ball means I have visual contact on the ball. The ball is the visual landing system you have. You've got a meatball, a series of lights that are directional, and a series of datums. And basically, if the lights are above the datums, you're high. If they're below the datums, you're low. If it starts getting orange or red, you're really, really low. If it goes off the bottom of the datums, you need to be elsewhere.
Yeah.
And ideally, you want, even with the datums, just a smidge above the datums is right where you want to be. That's all. So 602, Hawkeye ball, you give me your fuel state. So for us, it'd be something like 4.5. We got 4,500 pounds of fuel in my tanks. And sometimes you give them the last name, right? So you make the ball call and they say, Roger ball. If you are off significantly, or if there's something unusual happening that they think you're going to end up drifting off or something you may not be perceiving yet, they'll tell you, come left, right for line up, a little power, a little high, a little low, whatever. Otherwise, you just fly it, and you maintain your attitude and your power setting. You watch the ball all the way touchdown. It goes by you. You look forward, maintain your attitude and power setting. As soon as your landing gear touch down, you add power in case you skip the wire, you can go flying again.
Yeah.
And in about a second or two, you'll feel the deceleration, which is smoother but almost as rapid as the acceleration again. The catapult shot, and you pull the throttle back. Actually one of the aircraft handlers will come in front of you, give you the throttle back sign. Right? If they don't do that, that tells you that you're safe. You're safe. We've got you, right? And for people, it may be their first time, or it may be a really rough pass, and they just, they've just got the throttle maxed, and they're hyperventilating a little bit. The air boss, the person in the tower who controls the whole airspace, may say something like, "Hey, 602, throttle back. We got you. You can't make the ship go any faster." Right? They'll
give a bit of
they'll break it down with a little bit of humor. Like, okay, right. So that's what it looks like on a good day. We went flying once. This was 2000. We were deployed on Dwight D. Eisenhower CVN-69, carrier Air Wing 7. We were enforcing the Southern No-Fly Zone, Operation Southern No-Fly Zone, to keep Saddam Hussein from bombing the Kurds. Also make sure he wasn't going to try and launch any of his planes against our ships, which would have been a suicidal move, but you never know.
I mean, look at what's going on now.
Right. So we were just keeping an eye on things. The weather was bad. The weather was so bad. There were sandstorms throughout the Gulf. The Saudis weren't flying. The Kuwaitis weren't flying. The Iranians weren't flying. The Iraqis weren't flying. And our Air Wing commander decides we are going to launch for unit level training. We are launching at the minimal visibility and ceiling that you could to launch, and we didn't have any divert airfields. They were all socked in. So if we couldn't land, we were getting wet.
Land. Yeah.
Right. It was that
simple.
Going
for a swim.
And he decided that'd be a good time to do some training. So, okay. We're going, and we launch, and we do our mission, and we come back. And so it's an instrument approach. The advantage you have in an instrument approach or a nighttime approach is you get to much longer lineup instead of that 3/4 mile dynamic situation. You can stabilize much farther out, 2-3 miles out sometimes, and just get in a very controlled situation all the way down, which I would usually do. And that's one of the reasons I really enjoyed flying at night is it was a lot less dynamic. The winds were usually calmer. Good weather nighttime. I was one of the weird people. I always liked those. Usually people only like the daytime ones. This one was not like that. We get to 3/4 mile, and the landing signals officers call me up, and they say, call the ball. And the term when you can't see was Clara, right?
Yep.
And usually it'd be just Clara ball. I called Clara ship, 3/4 miles away, traveling approximately 118 miles an hour. I could not see a 1,000 foot long
ship,
100,000 ton ship that I'm supposed to be touching down on in 2 minutes. And I had not flown a particularly good approach. I was, for whatever reason, I was struggling that day, and I was chasing the landing indicators all over the place. And so the airplane's doing this a little bit, and it's also my first tour. So while I've done several of these, I don't have that depth of experience yet. And so we're coming in, and this is a Hawkeye, so the throttle's in my right hand and the yoke's in my left. So we're coming in, and we get closer, and it's obvious that the landing signals officers can't see me either.
Oh, man.
At about a half a mile, so we're about 8 seconds from landing, I look up, and I can see the outboard of the starboard of the ship. The runway's on the port side of the ship. And in my mind, I can feel the landing signals officers have this thing that's called the pickle. And they've got their finger on it, and they give you the wave-off lights if you're out of parameters and wave you off. I can feel their finger tightening on the pickle. I just rip the airplane up, make 2 quick corrections, and land on centerline on 3 water. That was not a lot of fun. It taught me 2 things. One, I had the ability and the basic airmanship skills to get out of some pretty hairy situations. And 2, it would have been a lot better and wiser to use those airmanship skills about 3 miles earlier and fly a good approach.
and
not have to do that, right? So it was nice to know I could get myself out of a jam in a bad situation, but I'd put myself there to begin with. And much better to, there's a saying in aviation that the mark of a superior aviator, the hallmark of a superior aviator, is one who uses his superior headwork to avoid having used his superior airmanship skills.